Hello, Connecticut. I have on the screen here something very important. It's the PACER system, which you need to learn how to use. And right here is the Magliore case. And if you look on the screen, I can show you the complaint, which is obviously important. And if you download the document, which I did, I'm trying to show it to you. It takes a second. Here we go. You look at the main document, click, and then here's Sam. Here's suing Gary White and Michael Nemec, Assistant State Attorney. And if you look, Sam is not an attorney, but he's doing his own thing. He's saying that there's a violation of Title 18 U.S. Code for misprision of felony, Title 18, 241, conspiracy to violate civil rights under the color of law, violation Title 18, 242, deprivation of right under color of law, kidnapping in the first degree, Class A felony, conspiracy to commit offense, and it goes on and on. If you read the actual dialogue, the plaintiff is seeking restitution from Judge Gary White, who 6 of us witnessed him commit a felony. Now, Heather's on the phone. Say hi, Heather.
Hi.
Sam is quite frankly on the edge due to stress, and Nemec here has been concealing his obstruction of justice, his blatant refusal to supply Sam with exculpatory evidence, and working with a dirty attorney to ruin Sam. Okay, fine. Sam's a whistleblower. He should have been afforded protections from the beginning. A municipal employee that complains to the municipality about fraud, they need to protect him, have a hearing, pursue it under the regular statutes, and that wasn't done. So now Gary White bumped $150,000 bail to $650,000, which is violates the Fourth and Sixth Amendment. Excessive bail is a problem. And then if you look at what Dumas has done, and you look at these charges: false arrest, kidnapping, inhumane punishment, assassination, defamation of character by the media, and then multiple judges conspiring to do the same damn thing to him. Now, if you realize what happened to Andrew Pritchard, Judge Gennario violated the Hobbs Act by saying that every judge would financially go after Andrew Pritchard, and that's exactly what's happened. How can a house be stolen that's worth $3.5 million for zero consideration when there's no mortgage? It's a problem since 3 people have purchased the home since then, and they are straw buyers that never paid a dime. They wrote a blank check, never cashed. The house didn't cost them a penny, folks, and Andrew received none of the proceeds. The problem is now how the case is escalating into other types of, quite frankly, constitutional law violations and EMAP fraud, title fraud, implicating about 18 judges now. So when you look at Sam's case, it's been filed. The judge keeps ruling. The judge has a federal lawsuit against him, and still, Judge White keeps ruling on Sam.
Johnny, maybe it's worth noting right here about Andrew's arrest, and now we've got another family that got arrested in Greenwich for the same thing.
Oh, let's do it. Let's talk about Chris. Why don't you lay it down?
You mean Tim?
Tim.
Yeah,
Tim Judge, yeah. Tell him about Tim Judge.
Yep. Tim and his family were arrested last Friday.
Right.
At the home in Greenwich.
And the kids, and 4 kids.
Yep. And one child was only 14 years of age, a girl.
Well, the problem here is that Judge Kavanewsky, who Isn't it Kavanewsky?
Kavanewsky, correct?
Kavanewsky has 2 orders in my hand. Now keep in mind this. Ready? I want to show you this when we're done with the conversation about Heather. Kavanewsky allowed Tim Judge an extra week to wrap up the documents on his foreclosure. Tim, what, quick claimed the house?
Yeah, so what happened was exactly what you're saying. He was afforded an extra week by the judge on the record. And now dirty Amy Michelby, who's the head foreclosure clerk in the Stamford courthouse, dirty criminal, she went and she didn't docket the fact that...
Right, so the judge's ruling was overlooked. The house was foreclosed upon. Tim answered the door. The marshal arrested him and his children because the clerk didn't notice.
Didn't even put the hearing on the docket. Went and put Tim Judge in front of Judge Adams, and Judge Adams said, I don't see anything that you're talking about.
Yeah, Judge Adams is possibly the biggest criminal in Connecticut, so you know.
Yeah.
He works at Kelly Dry. They cashed 1,300 stolen checks of mine. They stole $50 million, folks. And Judge Adams is the administrator that assigns the cases. And 12 attorneys from Kelly Dry have claimed to be my attorney I've never met and cashed stolen checks. So here we are. We have such a problem in Connecticut with these judges that, now let's get back to the case in point, right? Ready?
Ready.
4 kids in the house. The marshal arrests them. The judge made a ruling which isn't noticed. And Amy Michelby, while on maternity leave, never told me and kept ruling on cases from her home. And about 100 cases of mine were dismissed during her maternity leave that I paid full price for the processing, and then they were dismissed. Now, Kavanewsky, let's go over Kavanewsky. Kavanewsky has a problem in your case, correct? Personal case?
Yeah, well, what happened, yes, in my case, it's Amy Michelby again. She refused to put me, she lied about a hearing. They had a hearing without sending out notice. I got the notice well after the court date, so no, I wasn't there to litigate, and then a bankruptcy had to be filed.
Well,
So,
a lot of
you know,
people
all
are
these courts are working in...
a lot of people are getting the book thrown at them for following the law. Now let me show you a recent ruling by Kavanewsky right here in my hand. Get ready, folks. So I filed to sequester the 2020 ballot in Connecticut due to 20 states being hacked by Connecticut in the 2020 election, which I think is material, and Judge Blowy thinks has merit. So what happens is they transfer the case to Kavanewsky. Kavanewsky makes a ruling, 8 rulings I think on 11/16. I just got one in the mail today. I just opened it. And it's from the same day. The other ones came on the 22nd, and this one came on the, 26th? So this is what this says. Are you ready? This court, as an well, hold on. The plaintiff has a most recent barrage of cases accusing fraud and allegations, conspiracy about the electoral ballot. Yes, 12 candidates were kept from the ballot that should have been in the 2022 Connecticut election. A gubernatorial candidate, a lieutenant governor, a U.S. Senate candidate, a Secretary of State candidate. Blocking 12 candidates from the election ballot is fraud, okay? So here he goes. This court, as an electoral fraud, as extremely he takes electoral fraud as a serious one. However, the plaintiff has done nothing but slur the electoral process and consume scarce resources of the court. Really? I gave him evidence that Connecticut hacked Alabama, Wisconsin, Michigan. I gave him evidence that Connecticut hacked 20 states, Maine, Vermont, Massachusetts, and For example, the Pennsylvania lawsuit that Connecticut hacked, Trump won by 80,000 votes, but 243,000 were flipped from Trump to Biden. So 500,000 votes would be the difference in outcome. So instead of Trump losing by 243,000 votes, he would have won by 260,000 votes. Do you understand? Trump won Pennsylvania, but since Connecticut hacked it, Trump lost Pennsylvania. Do you understand that Trump won Wisconsin, but he lost because Connecticut hacked Wisconsin? Do you understand that other cases, other states had elections that it wouldn't have changed the outcome? Okay, fine. Alabama, Oklahoma would not have changed the outcome, but they flipped 10 million votes so that Biden could win the popular vote. You understand? So that when they're discussing the Electoral College, they would have overturned an election, even from the popular vote standpoint. Now, there's no way that 85 million Americans voted for Biden. There's just absolutely no way. But look back at the Kavanewsky order, okay? I just got it in the mail. The electoral process and consumes the scarce resources of the state. Therefore, now listen to the order. The prior denials of application for fee waivers are vacated. So he's saying he went back now to change the fee waivers. Are dismissed. Why? And the appeal from such denials are dismissed. Those appeals are filed in the appeals court. Kavanewsky has no right to overturn an appeal in the appeals court because he's going to lose in the appeals court. And he's going to force me to lose in the Stamford Superior Court. What I did was I sent in boatloads of documents like Section 148, which is right here. If you look at this paragraph, and believe me, folks, it's important. If you look at this paragraph, 317, certification of a U.S. Senate race. The U.S. Senate race for Blumenthal can't be certified because Kohler has a conflict of interest having worked for Blumenthal for 12 years. So when you look at these rules, okay, there's a section 14, there's a section 15. You need to read them because absentee ballots are not verified in the state of Connecticut. Not at all. There's no mechanism to disqualify a candidate because our legislators changed the law to screw the Republican Party. Because now that the Democrats are completely in control, they intend on keeping it. So the one statement I'd like to make is I alerted this judge that 167 of the 169 towns in Connecticut committed fraud in the 2020 election. 167 towns out of 169. And Stamford's one of those remaining towns. They didn't just commit fraud, folks. There are books and books of ballots. Let me show you them. Here's one of them. Every single one of these pages with a tab has 11 signatures of Stamford residents that were never disqualified or validated. In other words, if signatures are not disqualified, they're valid. That's the law. What this judge is doing by overturning, here's his last order. It's much longer than his prior, the one I just showed you right here from today. This is the one from last week. Are you joking me? Everything on this order is illegal. So here we go. Heather, tell the people what you're about to do.
In my own case,
Yep.
I'm about to sue the Stamford Police Department.
Why?
Well, I mean, they've obstructed justice beyond anyone's imagination.
Did they bribe you?
Pardon me?
Did they bribe you?
Yes.
3.5 million?
Well, yeah, I guess so. Because it was involving a property that that was sold for I think a little more than 3.5 million. Yes.
Okay. So did
That
they?
was, the property was stolen from me with identity theft.
Right. Let me be specific. Let me ask the questions. You say yes or no answers. Ready?
Yep.
We'll make it clear, right? Were you raped?
Yes.
Okay. Did the doctor who raped you drug you first?
Yes.
Okay. In his federal case that I looked at the other day online, 25 charges of different types of drugs that he was prescribing illegally.
Correct.
Okay. Dr. Fahuja, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so did he pay bribes to Stamford for protection money? And did the court look the other way?
Well, it sure looks like it to me, and he bragged all over town that that's what he did. That he is very good friends with the judges.
Now,
His son
okay.
went to law school, and that they supported different judges, one being Judge White.
Did his uncle or did his brother get arrested for bribing judges releasing opioid pushers?
He got arrested for delving out at $400,000 a pop. He was bribing what he thought were dirty New York cops.
Now, did Dr. Ahuja rape and drug men too?
He did drug, yes, and rape, yes.
Okay, is he a suspect in his own wife's murder?
Well, we all...
I read it in an article.
Stamford, put it this way, Stamford police officers told me, point blank, they know that he killed his wife, they just don't know how to prove it. And asked if I would have...
Did he issue the drugs to his son that his son overdosed on?
Yes.
Okay, how many people do you think overdosed? How many people do you think overdosed because of Dr. Ahuja? Just in Darien. Just in Darien.
Oh, at least hundreds.
How many overdosed in Stamford, do you think?
Probably thousands throughout 30 years or 35 years of this. And this is what the cover-up is, because I wasn't going to stop. I marched in front of his office with 8-foot signs saying that he was a rapist and that he is drugging people illegally.
So were you told, were you told by the court that your documents were sealed?
Yes.
Was that true?
No.
So who in their right mind would tell you, who in the court was compensated through, why would a judge not treat Ahuja as a drug dealer?
Well, there was a prosecutor that was in the court at the time of Ahuja's second arrest for illegal drug distribution. That prosecutor's name is Rubin, and Prosecutor Rubin said openly, publicly, and to the newspaper, which I have the articles, that Dr. Ahuja should be, he disagreed with Judge White's order.
Judge White.
That he should be...
Dennis Bradley's buddy who framed T.J. Elgin, who ran for Congress. Judge White.
Judge White also refused to allow me to do a victim's impact statement and humiliated me in open court in front of hundreds of people, told me to sit down. And the way he said it, he yelled it.
Judge White, who falsely arrested and imprisoned Sam Magliari.
Yes, correct.
So let me tell you, how much longer can Stamford put up with this crap?
Well, everything's a cover, and what they do is they promote the people that keep their mouths shut, and that's what Sam pointed out in regards to the government center. And the rest of them, they take early retirement. When the chief of police came to my house, he threatened me. He put his fist in my face. He let me know. He was there with a detective, but he came and knocked on my door and he threatened me. And
I believe you, right? I open-heartedly want you to pursue your Stamford police case. Let me tell you
So
something.
they have damages now. I mean, this has gone on. They've taken the best years of my life, 14 years of my life fighting, and I told them if I drop dead in the courtroom, I'm going to fight until the end, until I see justice.
Well, 23 years ago, I had my brokerage firm stolen, and they took millions of dollars, and they've been investigating ever since, and they've never come to a conclusion. But what I will tell you is, in 2013, they hired a hitman named Richard Filippelli, who's listed in a case where he was hired by a dirty cop to kill a clean cop named Lamb, and then hired by another dirty cop to kill another clean cop named Dealey. So Larrabee was chief of police in Stamford.
Right.
Larrabee became chief of police in East Haven, where they put a hit on me. And it's well documented because I sued him 4 times already. I sued East Haven twice. I sued Stamford. I sued Norwalk. And you know what? I've never been able to play the 911 calls. There are 31. And not only that, in the first 911 call, the police sent me to my office where the guy with the axe was waiting. So I fought him for 2.5 hours. I completely understand what happened to you. As I think you're a targeted individual.
That's exactly how they got me beaten up. That's exactly how they did, put the graffiti on my garage door. I mean, everything is a ploy. The deal is way back before the Me Too movement, everything was as far as, victim shaming.
Right. So here you are. Here you are. You were the drugged, raped victim foreclosed upon, where you got no justice in the court. They dismissed your case and told you it was sealed when it wasn't. And then now, based on new evidence and another lawsuit, you have the opportunity, correct, to reopen the case, correct?
Yeah, but the problem is Judge Gennario, the pedophile protector, his uncle, as I told you in a prior...
Yeah, I know him well, yeah.
Yeah, that he protected his uncle who was the Monsignor at St. Catherine's Church, and he raped 23 young boys. I asked Gennario to recuse himself. He refuses to do that. How the heck am I supposed to get my case?
Well,
he's in control of everything.
Here we go. In the Pritchard case, Gennario recused himself and then came back in and ruled a whole bunch of times after he recused himself. So he recognized that he had to be recused based on his own personal conflict of interest, and then he came back in anyway and ruled anyway. So what's happening is when Kavanewsky's not willing to do Gennario's bidding, then Gennario has to come back in and do his own bidding.
Yeah, so we have a head foreclosure judge, Gennario, who is, and it's been proven and documented by Gennario, it's on the internet, he did interviews in Hartford where he openly stated that he was best friends with Judge Kavanewsky.
Nice.
So we've got these guys tag teaming in a RICO operation. Then we have Judge White, where he wouldn't allow me to do a victim's impact statement. So then I was sent over to Judge Hudok's courtroom.
Oh.
And those two are buddy-buddy. And
Yeah.
he told me in open court that he would stand behind Judge White till the end of time. So I in turn said, well then, you're wasting my time, then you're a criminal too, and there's no point in me, saying anything. And
Well, here we go. Gennario, who you're talking about, in a Pritchard transcript, says, all the judges that I know will financially ruin you. In other words, he's going to make it happen. And he did.
Well, yeah. And then again, like I say, the number one at the time when, I was in the middle of my litigation, it was Judge Tierney. And Judge Tierney, on the record in the Anthony Armijo case, stated as clear as could be, they were going to win, and there was no one to pay their money to in regards to their home. So Judge Tierney said, well, think it's fair that you should get a free house. They said, no, Your Honor, we don't think it's fair, but we don't know who to pay. The paperwork's so mixed up. So Judge Tierney stated, and I can get you the transcript if you'd like, he stated clearly on the record then, no one's getting a free house, and I'm going to do everything in my power to see that you lose.
Well, you saw what happened in the Wands case by Tierney, right?
I don't know if I did or not.
Oh, it's pretty bad. But let me tell you this. My second foreclosure, okay, I was not behind on my payments. Though 28 cashed stolen checks were credited to a third party that I never got credit on my mortgage. So they said if I don't get current, like pay 42 grand for the second time that I already paid, that they would take my house. And you know what? Judge Tierney took my house. And he knows that there are 28 cash stolen checks. And guess what?
The wrong parties, and they're just and then if you, I had someone who died of a heart attack fighting.
Right. Well, I'm going to reopen that case. I'll tell you why. Ready? Because Judge Adams's law firm cashed them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So my mortgage that I paid got screwed up, and Judge Adams's law firm, Kelly Dry and Warren, Bank of America's attorney, has fake accounts collecting cash, extorting people in Norwalk, down at 50 Washington. And there's a long list of people. It's in the hundreds. We had a meeting. 50 people showed up, and they all told everyone's story about how their mortgage payments were missing. Unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. It's a disgrace.
So.
And then people, they think that they're not going to be next, and that's what the deal is. You know, all our life, most of us, anyone that listened to the adults talk when you're growing up, and, news and TV during the Vietnam War and all, we were always 2 payments short of homelessness. The whole country's known that. People now don't have 6 months reserves.
No.
And this litigation, in my case, has gone on for 15 years.
So hold on. For 15 years, they charged you $100 a day?
Yes. Well, not 15. Whenever that litigation, that might have been in 2014 that started.
Oh.
But they've got me close to $200,000.
Yeah, so it's 9 years, which is 27,000 times 100. You're behind by 270?
No, that they say that I owe $1,200,000 and something because of all the lawyers I've fought for all these years. But the bottom line is that's a separate lien that the city has on me, an illegal lien that they've got on me.
They put a lien on you because you wouldn't accept their bribe of $3.5 million.
No, that was on my California property. This is a Connecticut
Oh,
property.
that's the house that Ahuja took.
Yeah, but essentially Ahuja had his hands and his lawyer had their hands in all my property dealings.
So let me just clarify, and then let's call it a day because we're at 29 minutes.
Okay.
The doctor that raped you and drugged you foreclosed on your house and got it in California.
Correct. And then I would love to put this on the record.
Go.
His son Nicholas Ahuja is an attorney. The property was turned over to him. So we've got a licensed Connecticut attorney in possession of the proceeds of my $3.5 million California property. And the judges in Connecticut say, get out of here, go to California, we're not helping you. We're not helping you with the property in California. The jurisdiction is here, people.
Well, it's federal now.
There's mail fraud, there's federal fraud, there's every type of fraud, there's identity theft. That comes straight down on the Stamford Police Department because the jurisdiction's Stamford. They started the theft in Stamford. The attorney is from Darien. Ahuja lives in Stamford. I live in Stamford. The property may be out of state, but it's what they call multi-jurisdictional, and the Secretary of State should be involved in this. They're the ones, all they need to do is get a judgment in the Stamford Superior Court, and the Secretary of State does what they call a sister state judgment, and they order my property returned immediately. Sheriff's Department out in California is waiting for the order.
I saw there was a property overturned yesterday in, I think, Colorado. The guy had a foreclosure, and he was never notified till a few months after he died.
Yeah, they didn't notify me. They knew where I lived. This is a Hooja who lives a mile from here, the drug dealing doctor. They all know where I live.
Okay. Well, best of luck. Godspeed.
Thank you.
And hopefully we can talk about the case, get people involved, so you can have 30 people in the courtroom on your side during the decision, so the judge will have to keep this guy honest. Obviously, that's an impossible task.
No, it's impossible. He's not even allowing a in-house hearing. They're doing it remotely over the telephone. And when I tell him off for his, what he's involved in, that's it. They just cut the hearing. It's only me on the telephone. And I need a way out of this. Maybe federal court. It should be removed maybe to federal court.
Yeah.
The problem in federal court is they gave him a free pass too. They didn't believe me. Now, after he murdered his son and after he murdered his wife.
And he got convicted of selling drugs with no licenses.
And no documentation and, no tax records, no IRS. I mean, come on.
Well, I've heard, I don't know if I heard it from you, but he used to...
When they got the brother, there was $18 million in the back of his truck.
Well, you know what?
Around with $18 million
I'm hearing that every prescription he ever wrote, he would require the person to give them back half the drugs.
Correct. And that's what I'm doing is I went in, am getting affidavits from patients of his that,
Nice.
work.
So he was extorting drugs to write a prescription, while Conklin was protecting OxyContin, Purdue Pharma, and they spent $112 million in bribes to the Connecticut DNC. Jim Himes took a bribe. Blumenthal took a bribe. All so they could legalize 340 opioid deaths daily, nationwide.
Yeah, well, where are all the moms? Because you know what?
I met two of them recently at a house. I can have them come. They'll talk.
I mean, we need hundreds. Every family should be worried about their children becoming addicted. They all go away to college and then they act like, well, my kid doesn't do drugs. Get the heck out of here.
Well, listen to this. Listen to this startling fact. In 1965, there were 100 opioid deaths nationwide. 100. Last year, there were 100,000. So we don't have a gun problem because in 1965, we had the same number of shootings as we do now. Okay? So the number of shootings hasn't changed, right? But the number of opioid deaths went from 100 to 100,000. And we have a gun problem and not an opioid problem? I don't get it. I really don't get it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. We better rip it up. It's 34 minutes.
Okay.
I will help you with the lawsuit. Get cracking.
Thank you.
Let's get it done.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you, Johnny.
Cool.
Bye.
That's Heather. An angel. She is a trooper, and if you don't help her, there's something seriously wrong with the judgments that she's received, because it's organized crime in the court. Yes, it is. Thanks a lot.